Okay, today I want to share with you a video that I do for my Skillist followers. So the Skillist app is where I teach from and do a lot of online coaching on. But I do videos for them once a week, and I did a video last week which was really pretty, I was quite happy with it because it's something that I'm working on personally myself, but I know it's going to definitely help you, and it's about how the body works and about staying centered. And if you do that, I promise you, you're going to really improve your golf. So come on, let's go do it. Okay, welcome to another Fix It Friday. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about today is something that really made a difference to my game, to be honest with you, and I thought I'd share it with you. And it's about staying centered, all right? And I, throughout most of my early professional career, through the late 80s, early 90s, I was taught, rightfully and wrongfully, and this is a way you can play, but I was taught that we had to move our mass about, so I had to move weight from right side over to the left hand side. Okay, and it was, one of the key phrases I'll always remember is getting my chest over my right knee and being in a stacked position like so, because this got my weight to the right, because the idea was that you shifted weight when you throw something, you move side to side, and it was about creating more force and more power. But inadvertently it was changing my motion, so I was shifting laterally to the right hand side here, and I used to have a drill that I used to have to do. Watch the mic here, because it's just here on my chest, but I used to have to try and get the grip end of my club, put the club across my shoulders here, turn back to my right hand side and get the club or the grip to be over my right foot, if that makes sense. So I was having a lot of lateral sway, and ideally, if you coupled it up with the right motion, it looked pretty good. It looked like how it should do. It looked like what the tour players were doing at the time. The issue was, one of my biggest faults was always hanging back on the shot and was always being behind the ball, and occasionally, every so often, luckily I had decent hand-eye coordination. I could make contact on the ball, but every so often, especially with the longer clubs, and it became apparent more with my 4-iron that I'd hit the 4-iron and the 5-iron similar distances. Why? Because when I was presenting the club head back to the ball with a 4-iron, I was behind the shot, and I was adding loft onto the club as opposed to getting forward shaft lean. Now I know we talked about forward shaft lean or dynamic loft last week, but I wanted to add a bit more to that. It's about how the body can have an influence on that as well. So think about this, right? So if I had to go from my right hand side, I've got to have a massive, huge lateral shift over to my left hand side in order to get to the ball. Okay, so at impact, ideally you'd be slightly ahead of the ball, and slightly turned open. So I've had to go from being over my right foot, which is over here somewhere, okay, if that's roughly in line, okay, to being over here. So I have to time that by going over to the right hand side and then getting over here and literally almost lunging at the ball. And this is what we see a lot of golfers do, or amateurs do. They tend to go from here and lunge, and this is when you get over the top actions and so on. And then we talked about the legs had to drive to do it, and this also caused a lot of problems because I was way back over here and I'm hinging my legs to go this way. This can cause you to come underneath it and fat it, thin it, hook it, and all sorts, because I'm trying to drive the legs and the hips and try and get my hip forward. And this is where people also get, it's not the wrong thing to do, but they start the swing with the lower half. Yes, it does move and bump to the left hand side, and this is what changes the angles in your body. But really the main key point of this was that there was a massive sway, okay, and it was being taught. So you had to be all right, over your right leg on the backswing and then over your left leg on the forward swing, so using a straight line through the ball here. And I don't disagree with this, but you had to be over the ball, right shoulder towards the target, chest was over the left knee. So I'd gone from being over the right knee to suddenly being over the left knee. Now, if you watch me doing it on the screen here, that's quite a huge lateral shift that I'm having to work on. And it doesn't work in with all the new ground force laws and so on, having to then push in. So I'm having to go from over here to then over here. I'm there's a lot of movement going on here, you know, and yet you had, you know, one of the greatest golfers of all time, Jack Nicklaus, saying, you know, you got to keep your head still. You know, his old coach, Jack Grout, used to hold his hair, you know, keep him nice and central, and it was all about central pivots, and yet we moved away from that to get over to the right hand side to then get over to the left, okay, and it wasn't very dynamic. All right, it's not a very dynamic movement in all fairness. So it's really important. Now from the side on, it doesn't really have much issue going to the right, as long as I kept my shoulders turned, I could pull the club back down on the right target. But I was having to move a heck of a lot, and if I didn't time that right, I could fat it, I could hit the odd thin every so often, hook it. It had to be timed perfectly. But then there was a modern swing come along, and I'm not against all these things and so on, and it got a real slating really. There was one called stack and tilt, you know, where you had to then stack a little bit of weight onto the left hand side, 55, 45, but the main thing was you were stacking your chest over your hips and so on. You were keeping that relationship, and to a certain degree, a lot of golfers, actually more amateur golfers, should do that more than trying to do the pro tour player thing, you know, try and stay a bit more on the left side and hit that. But I always found that a little difficult, and I know I'll get slated for it by the S&T as for driving, but I struggled with the driver, and that's because I wasn't probably moving my hips laterally enough, but I couldn't get that. It didn't work for me. But then I've come across obviously Mike Malaska in the last 8 years, and that totally revolutionised my game, because I was doing the central turn, and this enabled me to simplify the swing a lot more. So I'm working on straight lines basically here now, rather than rotationals, because throughout the whole of the 80s and 90s and so on, it's all been about turn and turn, okay. You have to turn around a fixed pivot point, and what happens there is you tend to turn on the right hand pivot point to go to the backswing, so everything stalls here, and then on the forward swing you then turn around the left hand pivot point, which means then you're going to come out over the top. Ideally you want to be pivoting around the center, but ideally you want to think about straight lines, and this is what really was like a big aha moment for me, okay. It was like a, where's that been all my life? All right, was to think more about the hips, the right hip going back. And Greg Norman used to talk about this. He used to call it RPB, okay, right pocket back, where when he wanted more distance, he used to talk about pushing the right hip pocket back further, because this helped him to create more turn in the backswing. And it does to a certain degree, because getting the right hip out of the way. But you see, we were taught through, again, the 80s and 90s, and this sort of stuff stuck all the way through the millennials and so on. It's stuck in that time period where you had to keep the right knee braced and the right hip, you know, could turn 45 degrees and restrict it. But it was all around this right knee staying firm, because that gave you stability, and you could rotate your upper body over the lower body, which we now know isn't quite right, because it didn't create the ground forces needed. But that stuck, you know, and it still sticks around a little bit today. You still hear bits of it today. And but going through with Mike, so back to Mike again, working on the right hip going back, this opened up my chest, gave me the stretch I needed in my chest, my shoulder blades to contract together and my chest to open up to help get more turn. And this is what I tend to do more as I've gotten older, because I'm 49 now. More stretching exercises. I still have a little bit of strength, but you know, I'm getting old now, you know, and the muscles are going. But my friend is going to be flexibility, and it could be most people's friends really. So I, you know, do stretching of my chest every so often to try and open up the chest area, because that's where you're going to get the stretch to go back to get more turn really. Okay, but it really came down from hips going back. So, and this kept me stabilized, because if the right hip goes back, I didn't move too far to the right. Okay, because everything then went back with it, and then if I moved up into my left side and then I push back, everything stays fairly centralized. And this helps me to complete, and I've talked about circles before, but this helps me to complete my circle, because if I was moving to my right hand side, my circle, okay, or my lower point of my circle is moving back with me, okay, whereas if I can stay fairly central, that circle is staying roughly where I set it up at address. If that makes sense. Okay, it makes sense in my head. But if I have a circle here and the low point is here and I'm staying central, my circle is always going to return to the same point. Whereas if I'm going over here and then I'm having to shift laterally in order to do it, if I don't shift laterally, my low point is now here, okay, behind the ball. So it's really important you understand that and work on that, okay. And I'll show you a couple of drills that I did to help me to work on that. And they were fairly simple, fairly straightforward, but they really helped me to get the feel for it. And the idea is this, is you get the feel, okay, and then you try to recreate it into an action, okay, when you're hitting the ball. But your idea is you've got to get a feel for it, okay, and you've got to exaggerate those feels as well. All right. Now, one of the key ones that I did, which was a massive help for me, was the hand clap drill, okay, and it was a case of, I'll do it from this angle because you'll see, because we're talking about staying central. So I take my stance, posture, pushing my hips back and getting into my right posture, so I'm in a stable, balanced position. And then it was just a case of clapping my hands together, all right? And what I would do from here is I would then pull my right hand away, okay, but I would push my right hip back as I do so and swing back here, keeping my left hand in the same place, okay? And I'll just swing this over, and I can feel my chest stretching. I feel like I'm stretching my chest out, okay, to create that turn, and I'm pushing my right hip back and out the way. Now I can feel that I've stayed a lot more central, and I feel like I'm more in the middle of my stance as opposed to being over my right knee. So I'm just going to swing back, and this is how I feel. The other great thing with this is, as well, is it helps me with shoulder plane. So my shoulders should turn around the same axis as my spine. So my spine sits at this angle, my shoulders would turn at 90 degrees to that. What I won't do, one of the things we used to find with people that used to do this, left shoulder used to stay high, right shoulder, and they stay fairly level. They wouldn't keep the angles or the bends, okay, and it probably hurt the backs a bit more because you're resisting with this knee here, you were coiling up, stretching all those muscles and twisting your back as much as you shouldn't do. So from here, the hand clap drill. So I can do it from here, I push back. Now, admittedly, on the forward swing, there is a push with the hips. This gets me even more slightly in front of the ball from here. So I go back, I'm pushing with the hips. So my hips still stay turned, but they bump across to the right. And this actually sets my spine angle a bit more. Okay, and then what I can do from here, so I'm going to go back, bump in and bring my right hand back down towards my left to meet. Okay, this is going to help me with path as well, because I'm going to come here, and as I'm coming down, because I've already set up to the left, I'm pushing the left hip back as I do this. This keeps everything more central still. Bang, and then I can come up here. Now after I've hit the ball, I can stand up and do whatever I want. I can walk after it, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So it's just a great feeling to keep you centralized. Okay, it pretty much nails it every single time with most of my clients as well that I teach. If I get them to do this in front of me and say, right, hands clap, now stretch back, they stay pretty central straight away. Okay, and their ball striking improves because they suddenly hit it ball first, then turf, okay, or mat in my case. So it's really important you work on that. So just to show you from this angle, so set up posture, push the hips back, arms hang down in front of me, okay, and just from here I can swing back, keep my left hand in the same place. I'm stretching my body up and getting a good wingspan, okay, and my right hip's turned back, and I've kept the spine angle the same. Some people call this the helicopter drill, okay, but I'm doing it from the start here, so I'm pushing back, okay, and that's really, I can feel my chest opening up, I feel my rib cage, you know, being pulled apart here, my shoulder blades contracting together. Okay, I then move up into the left side, contract and push my left leg back all the way through. I'm pushing my left leg all the way through as I hit the shot, and then I come up. Okay, and that was a great drill. I used to do that one a lot, and I could really feel that, and it changes my swing path. So when I go back, it gets me on a much steeper plane, which I do get guilty of because I tend to be level. Because it was a fault of mine. Remember, I did what, 25 years of it. It's hard to get rid of those faults, but when I do this and I get this correct, I bring the club down and I get a nice ball, then turf sort of compression, and it's really nice, and it just helps to really get that feeling. So I do that stretching quite a few times, get that feel, and then I just try and interpret that into a golf swing. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and through. I can really feel like I'm staying central, and I crush into the ball, and I can feel it. I can feel a difference in compression. I can feel the difference throughout my body, really. I can feel, you know, my body sort of, it feels and moves in a different way. Okay, so I do that a few times. I get that feeling of staying centralized and pushing the right hip back. This made a massive difference to my golf swing. So just back, and through. Oh, didn't quite hit that one. Didn't quite hit that one on cue. Didn't feel comfortable over that one. Let's try it again for you. Show you that I can do it. So back and through to here. This net is worrying me today because it's quite windy over here. So back and through. Okay. So just to show you I can do it. So it makes a huge difference. So I really suggest you try that one out. Now the second one I give you was very simple. Very simple. It's as old as the hills really. Just hitting balls with your feet together. Okay, it's an old classic one. Feet together, tee it up, and this will teach you to rotate and turn on a dime. Basically, you can't sway either way with the upper body. Okay, you've got to stay fairly central, and this will teach you to what it feels like to stay central. I would tend to do this off a tee, but I'll go rogue. I'll try it off the deck. But feet together, balls in the middle of my stance, and I would just practice just hitting back and through. This keeps me nice and central and stops me from swaying around. It teaches you what it's like to feel as though that you stay central over the shot. All right. So again, hugely important. Like I say, it's as old as the hills, this drill. You can do it with driver all the way up to, from wedges all the way up to driver, just to get a feeling of what it's like just to swing. And I'd start off small, just go halfway back, halfway through, because you need your hips to get out of the way to do the full swing. But just to give you a feeling of what it's like to hit out the centre, back and through, you can see how you clip the ball quite nicely. You'll be amazed when you do that, how far you actually hit the ball. All right. So, and as with old things for me, I've slipped back into my old habit again. Okay, this is why having drills like this, and your DNA is not going to change that much, but having worked on this before, I'm back to doing it again. That's why it's not going to be perfect for me every single time. But I noticed it the other day when I was watching a video of mine. I was actually having a tendency to just start swaying back again. So I'm trying to stay more central. So it feels new to me again, if that makes sense. The beauty is that I'm already up into my left side, already there when I'm at the top of my swing. All I've got to do then is concentrate on just pushing this back out the way. And I've got all the time in the world to do that, to clear out my left hip. So it's a feeling when I do it and I do it right, it feels great. Okay, I feel like I've got all the time in the world to do that. So there you have it. Okay, learning to stay centered and doing this slap drill really helps you to really improve your ball striking. It will also help you with your swing path as well, because it gets the body moving in the right directions. So it was something that I got through, and I had a lot of good response from my skillist clients, and they were like, this is really great, it's a game changer, as some of the people are saying. But it's really about learning how that body works and staying centered, not this shifting laterally from side to side. So yeah, practice that drill. Do this drill with the hands in front of you. Feel that motion of staying nice and centered. You'll feel like you're staying on top of the ball. You often hear that phrase, but it's actually quite a simple movement to make. Okay, if you just stretch the arm away, you simply do it automatically. There's no way you would go like that when you do that. Just stretch that hand away, you'll do it automatically. It's going to give you a right good feeling of how and where you should be. If you can do that, I promise you, you'll improve your golf. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and also share it with somebody else you think it might be beneficial to. Anyway, thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next week.